Welcome, everyone. This is the Jaden Jeffs podcast, where we ask questions about religion, cults, and cash. Today, I'm going to tell you why, when I started questioning Joseph Smith, I started questioning everybody and everything, and it sort of shattered my whole worldview. You're probably wondering what I actually think about Joseph Smith. And the answer is, I'm not even so sure. I listened to Mormons tell me how great of a guy he was. I remember all the good things that I read about him and from him. And since I've heard a lot of negative things about him, I just don't have such an opinion on Joseph Smith. To be fair, I did read like 5 chapters of the Book of Mormon today. I got up first thing and I just jumped out of my bed and I grabbed my Book of Mormon and just started reading. And I memorized like 3 verses. And I think if you don't do the same thing, then you probably have some sort of mental problem. Look, I don't want to mock the Book of Mormon. I appreciate the book in some sense. I wouldn't say that I hate the Book of Mormon in any way. I just haven't really thought about it for the last little while. But that's not what this video is about. I'm not here to do a deep dive on Joseph Smith or the Book of Mormon right now. And I hope I don't alienate people because they get so pissed off because I make a joke about Joseph Smith. I'm somebody that has to joke about religion now. I just have to make a joke about the Book of Mormon once in a while. And I have to laugh about the Quran every once in a while. You see, I also read like 5 chapters out of the Quran and memorized 2 verses. And so I'm really feeling the spirit right now. And I'm really getting ready to tell you guys all about it. So for those of you who don't know, I grew up in the FLDS. And I was extremely loyal. I was so devoted. I was reading my Book of Mormon every day. I was doing all the faithful things. And I was never doubting the prophet. Not even once. And, I met this Mormon fellow one day. And he started asking me questions that started making my brain, wonder if he was trying to say I was brainwashed maybe. That's what he acted like. And so I returned the favor. And I started asking him a few questions about his prophet. And he started telling me all the bad things about my prophet, but was taken back when I started asking him questions about his prophet. And I started to think to myself that maybe I don't see my prophet how he does, and he don't see his prophet how I do. I'm willing to say really bad things and see his prophet in a negative way. But he only sees his prophet in this beautiful way. I said, I think that's how I'm looking at the world. Now, it's hard to take that lens off, but this moment really struck me. I started recognizing that maybe this is what brainwashed means. And I started reconsidering my views. And I met my brother, and he was telling me, look, if you start doubting the prophet, you're going to start doubting Joseph Smith. And Joseph Smith was my whole worldview. He was my whole foundation. And Jesus Christ. If I doubted them, well, I might as well just die today is what I thought. And so I put it on the shelf. I didn't want to jump off this black hole yet. But as time went on and things kept not making enough sense for me, and I couldn't navigate the world, and I couldn't get my needs met, well, then I started inching closer to this black hole until I fell in. And sure enough, I didn't stop at anybody. I didn't stop at Joseph Smith. I didn't stop at anybody. And I questioned Jesus Christ. And that's something I just never thought I would do. But I came to this conclusion in the process that if God was real, if he really was there, he wouldn't mind if I got a telescope out and zoomed up on every part of him and asked every possible question I could think of. I figured that if he was fake, he wouldn't want me to get out the telescope because I would discover that he wasn't real. So I came to this conclusion that if somebody doesn't want me to ask questions, that's the first huge red flag. Now, a lot of people out in the world are thinking, you were brainwashed, but I'm not. And I just kind of have my doubts about that. I want to talk about Warren Jeffs versus Joseph Smith for a minute. Because I think a lot of people feel that the FLDS is just a super fringe thing that they could never have been a part of. And I just want to describe that. Let's take an LDS person, for example, and the way that they see their prophet. They see him as this divine person that gives revelation from God. Well, that's exactly how we saw Warren Jeffs. Now, an LDS person would hate me to compare Warren Jeffs to Joseph Smith. But personally, growing up, I just thought they were so similar. And today, I still think quite a bit the same thing. They both had really young wives. Joseph Smith had a 14-year-old wife, and Warren Jeffs had a 12-year-old wife. I think a lot of Mormons would say that Joseph Smith probably didn't have any sexual relations, but they certainly don't totally have evidence. I don't have evidence that he did, but I just see a lot of similarities between Warren Jeffs and Joseph Smith. But I want to push something a little bit further, because if an LDS person was to look at Warren Jeffs, they just think of him as this crazy pedophile. But they look at their prophet as so divine. They don't realize how much an FLDS person looks at Warren Jeffs as quite a divine person, if you're still in the FLDS. And for me, having seen Warren Jeffs that way for so long, well, when I saw the LDS people doing the same thing with their prophet, it just really struck me back. And I just started thinking that we might all be in our own realities and see these people through a divine lens, and there may even be some sort of divine spirit that accompanies that. I'm not saying that anybody's brainwashed. I wouldn't say that about such a good-looking person like you. I can imagine you with your perfect facial features and your beautiful hair. And I wouldn't want to accuse somebody as good-looking as you of being brainwashed. But I'm just saying maybe it's a possibility. Because let's think of this a little bit different way. If we went to the Catholic Church and we found this young man and he was sitting in a front row with a suit and he just loved Jesus. And we asked him, or we pulled him aside and said, look, this Joseph Smith guy, he's just a crazy guy, The Catholic would probably laugh and be like, yeah, definitely. But if we also added, this Jesus guy, he's a little bit crazy too, the Catholic guy would be taken back and not agree with us, most likely. Now, this might seem like an extreme example, but in my opinion, it's not. Because you cannot tell if you're brainwashed by looking at people that you already disagree with. You can look at everybody in the world that you disagree with and laugh at them and mock them. But here's the test to see if you're really brainwashed. Can you look at somebody you really love and apply the same standard to them that you do to every one of those other fake prophets. When you're thinking of your political party, are you somebody that, your president cannot do wrong? But if the other president was in and he did the exact same thing, you would mock it? Because if you are, you might be brainwashed. You might be in some sort of a cult. Look, I know you're an awesome person. And I can see that you probably walk in this really nice, stylish way. And your attire is probably all beautiful. And your face probably has a whole bunch of makeup on it. But I just am presenting the possibility that you could be brainwashed. I wouldn't want to accuse you of being in a cult. But when you turn around and you can't see me, I put up a little whiteboard and it says what I really think about you. And I'm just trying to slightly do that right in front of your face right now. I mean, not to accuse you, but I'm just presenting the possibility. Because everywhere I go in the world today, I meet people and I think, man, that was a brainwashed belief they just barely told me. If you get offended when somebody presents something that you don't think is right, there's a good possibility you really need to consider that. Let me tell you a story. My sister was in the process of leaving the FLDS, and she got rid of her beautiful prairie dress. She pitched it in the closet. She wasn't ready to throw it in the garbage can yet, but she pitched it in the closet, and she went to meet some of our other family. So she had been wearing just normal clothes, what we call Gentile clothes, for maybe a month or less. And she went to meet some other people in our family, and they had these prairie dresses on. And below the prairie dress, they had their slip. And below that, they had their jeans or whatever, or tights or whatever they are. And below that, they had their long underwear. And they were all dressed up like these faithful FLDS people. And my sister had tossed that. And she came walking up to these people to meet them, their family members. And these FLDS members, they see people dressed, normal all the time. Because they're working and they're traveling around some. So it's not like they don't see people dressed like she was dressed. But when they saw her, they were just disgusted. They thought God was warning them. I mean, they got this dark feeling and just wanted to leave. And the reason I tell this story is because I see so often an idea presented to somebody that they're totally unfamiliar with, and they crush it. And they say it's wrong. Or let's say in religion, you present the idea that a person's leader might not be right. And you give a specific reason, and that person just feels dark. And I just think that we have to spend more time on those things and not assume that it's just a warning. I think we have to investigate it deeper. If you're, let's say, a Republican or Democrat, and your son comes up to you, and he's been with you all your life, and for some reason he switched, and he starts telling you about this and that and the reasons why, and you're just so upset, there's a good chance you're brainwashed. Well, it's easy to see that in politics, but it's difficult to see it in religion most of the time. And it's difficult to see it in our everyday lives. But we're so good at this in politics and religion and even in business. and even in our day-to-day little details of our lives. We're unwilling to try new things. And we're brainwashed. Look, I do think that you should just keep on reading your Book of Mormon. There's nothing wrong with that. And I would not recommend to anybody that you're brainwashed, or your Quran, or whatever book you believe in. But try to look at your leader through the same judgment lens that you look at every other crazy person that you think is out there. Because there's a good chance they're not much different. And I don't know what it is about the human mind that loves a divine person to look to. There's something we love about it. And we, especially in religions, establish our world reality on that foundation. And if somebody pokes at it, it's painful. The true test of if you're brainwashed is not if you look at the world and say, oh yeah, all that stuff everybody else does is silly. No, you need to look at the people you love the most, that you admire the most. You need to look at the ideas and beliefs that you value the most. And when somebody pokes at those and zooms in with a telescope and flips them over, if that's really painful, there's a good chance you're probably brainwashed. Now, if you were sitting right here by me today, and we were talking about your beliefs, and we discovered you were brainwashed, I would be super kind. But since you're not here, I just want to really let you know that there's a good possibility that you're brainwashed. But then I get this reminder of this good-looking person with these beautiful features, with this nice hair, and this walk that's just gorgeous. And I just can't tell you that you're brainwashed. I'm trying to suggest that you might be. But do you get my point here? So I just think in conclusion here that we need to be able to question everybody. And if we can't, what are they hiding? If there's some we just can't understand, or, people tell us just put that on the shelf because you don't understand, I would recommend to rip it off the shelf and just start asking 1,000 questions. I don't believe in any of these ridiculous shelves. You don't put things on the shelf. You rip them apart and you ask every question you possibly can about everything. And if somebody has something to hide, we're going to find it. And we have to take this philosophy into the future of asking every question. This is why I'm doing this podcast, because I want to always keep an open mind. This has been such an eye-opening experience that I am just amazed. Even today in my day-to-day life, I'm amazed that I still have these tendencies to, even with everything I know, it's just very natural for me to assume I'm right immediately and try to use the argument that I'm right rather than investigate the subject, no matter what it is, big or small. Investigate the subject genuinely. I just want to be right. And this is such a fault I feel in human nature. But look, you guys are awesome. And if you are a part of a cult, then I didn't mean to expose you in such a disgusting way today. I mean, I truly meant to do it, but I don't want you to know that I meant to do it. So if you see this in yourself, you don't need to feel embarrassed, because I once had it way worse. And even still today, I'm working through a lot of things in my mind where I immediately approach a subject where I'm right. And I think I see this in almost everyone. I was thinking we should open a clinic, like a psychiatric clinic. And we should investigate people if they're brainwashed. And we should bring them in and just grill them down about if they're really brainwashed. And we should diagnose brainwashing in people. And then we should brainwash them into a solution that we sell to them. I mean, look, the truth is a lot of businesses already do this. They convince you that you need something. They use your feelings, how you feel, to make you feel better with a product. And then they sell it to you. This is already how business works. And I just think that the more open we can see the world, the better off we'll be. You just don't want to be caught going with the herd. It's a dangerous place. And again, I never would want to expose you for being in a cult. If you need, you can grab a veil and run into your closet and close the doors until I leave. So I just recommend look at people that you love or that you admire through the same lens that you judge every other person. I have nothing else to tell you other than get out of your damn cult. Peace out.